Good morning everyone. In this video I'm going to be analysing EU and DXY to see what trading opportunities may be available for today. You're going to see my strategy and my analysis, so if you're interested in those then please stick around. Starting off on daily, as always, at the top is EU, at the bottom is DXY. What are we seeing on the daily? Well, yesterday closed out as like a bearish high test. You can see we wicked above and swept the previous weekly high, closing out below the open as a high test candle. In comparison to the Monday, which was a bullish day, that would be some sort of deceleration on a higher time frame after taking all this buy side liquidity. Inversely, on DXY, we closed out as a bearish low test candle, also after sweeping the previous weekly low. Day before that was also bearish, which we could look at again as some sort of deceleration to possibly continue bullish today with what was the previous trend. But we'll see. I don't want to look too much into the future, but going on the previous day, yes, some deceleration, buy side liquidity taken, sell side liquidity taken, so we may have some sort of bullish and bearish reaction on EU today. So let's go down to the 4 hour and see what that looks like. So on the 4 hour, you can see we had this bullish leg, this bullish push, pull back, fill in the imbalance, and we've had another bullish push yesterday, and we actually closed above this previous high here and more so into this imbalance than before, taking more buy side liquidity obviously from the previous high, which was the previous weekly high. And the same inversely on DXY. We came down, swept the previous weekly low, didn't close below it now, so that may obviously signal something in itself. We obviously aren't into that imbalance in the same way that we are on EU, so there is obviously still more room here for DXY to continue lower if that's the direction that we want to go. And also on EU, we obviously have this order block here to fill if it wants to have further bullish price action anyway. However, the way I see it, we have taken more buy side liquidity. We do have this 4 hour imbalance below, right, which is yet to be filled. So at the very least, after taking this buy side liquidity, I could probably see price coming down into this area here. If not, it could continue even further down into more of a discount on EU and more of that premium on DXY after closing out as a rejection low test of this previous weekly low. So you can see we had a massive engulfing from this point where we took this previous weekly high, and obviously overnight into today, price action slowed down and we've been going sideways, creating buy side and sell side liquidity on the lower time frames. So what else do we have? We have our previous daily highs and lows on both still intact. We're very close obviously to our previous daily low and previous daily high. This hasn't swept. I think it's just missed by maybe a pip or so. So we'll see how that one plays out. So there may be some sort of divergence here with DXY, signaling maybe lower prices for now on DXY. But let's go down to the 1 hour and see what that shows us. So on the 1 hour here, you could probably see that it seems we've made this bullish leg from this point to this point here, and price did close above that previous high. And again on DXY, we did not. Price closed out above the previous weekly low line and just swept down into that sell side liquidity. Now either way, both have taken buy side and sell side liquidity, and we can see we rejected that area, though that momentum has currently died off and we've just gone sideways, leaving liquidity on both sides. However, we also left behind an imbalance on the 1 hour time frame on both DXY and EU. From this point here, price could go either way, right? We have our high time frame price draws below, imbalance and order block. Beneath us in EU, we have that bearish scenario if we need to seek out these order blocks and this imbalance first. Price could be attracted downwards and upwards here on DXY. So we could go through that previous daily high and through that previous daily low straight down into this area. Or price could first go to fill these imbalances, right, near the previous daily low, previous daily high. So immediately in London in the morning, I do see the possibility of it going either way first. This will be our Asia range. We'll see that more on a lower time frame. But yeah, we have POIs drawing us on both sides. We have this sort of bullish trend. We are still pretty much in the premium of this new leg, around maybe the equilibrium at this point. Price could easily take buy side or sell side and go either way in my opinion. Now, of course, as you can see on the screen, there are further unmitigated POIs. Price may come for those later on with the news. There's a lot of news in the New York session. I believe the CPI announcements, and then there's some sort of later announcements as well in the evening. So we'll see what price does during London, whether it's just going to mess about waiting for those announcements. But yeah, this is the picture I see. We took some sell side liquidity from this low here. The price has just been held at this point. Again, it's going to be let the lower time frames show us which direction it wants to go after taking some sort of liquidity, I believe. So let's go down to the M15 and see what price looks like at the moment. So yeah, here we are on the M15. We can see what opportunities we may or may not have today. As I showed on the higher time frame, but you can see it a bit closer here. You can see we're just in this range for now. We haven't gone anywhere since the end of New York last night. And it's the same even on DXY here. You can see we've created a lower time frame range. We'll have buy side liquidity resting above here, sell side liquidity below these lows, which is also the previous daily low as well. Price has just swept this internal liquidity here. Could break down. We'll see what happens. And again, obviously on a higher time frame, we have imbalances above here to draw price as well. And of course, imbalances below here. Inversely on DXY, we have the 1 hour POI above and the imbalance below. So what am I looking for? There's a couple scenarios that could happen here. From where we are now in price, let's just mark this in. We have just swept internal liquidity. So I'm going to draw up a possible opportunity from here. Price could break down strongly, breaking below these lows. That's a breaker structure. It will be taking sell side liquidity, but if we have a strong close below this, we've broken structure, broken these lows, we've swept internal buy side liquidity. We're kind of following order flow right, making lower lows and lower highs now, and we have our POI draw below. We could then have our corrective, possibly corrective pullback to this point here, where we'd have our order block left behind, and then now we can trade down lower towards our POI and discount. So this is exactly how it would look to me. This is exactly what my order would look like. We would have our possible inducement here. And I would set my order at this point. Stop just above the highs. Obviously, if this high doesn't hold, then it's more than likely it's coming for these equal highs nearly at the top of Asia here. So I don't need to pad that all the way up here or anything like that. You would just set a trade again if there's another trade, for me personally anyway. So this is how my trade would look. We've already got the internal sweep. We would have the breaker structure down here and then a nice pullback to continue lower towards this hourly POI. We've also swept that internal liquidity here on DXY, so that would be on side. We'd also have DXY making a breaker structure, we would hope. It would also take buy side liquidity, so that's why the break and close above and the pullback is very important there. We see that Frankfurt has already swept Asia, hasn't given much of a bullish reaction, but usually would go to the other side. So this same move could happen up here if we sweep that and then break down, but also we have that imbalance above as well. So those are the negatives. But yeah, as I said, this whole scenario could happen just above this line here as the buy side liquidity. It may be the better option, of course, as well, given that Frankfurt, when they sweep Asia, we usually go to the other side of this Asian range. So imagine this up here, and that's also a valid scenario. But we're again waiting for the breaker structure to show us price's intention after taking this buy side liquidity, because we also have the POIs above for price to fill as well. Now, a buy scenario I can also possibly see from this area. Price could come down, and if it was to sweep and take this previous daily low, these internal lows here, and then break above this high, causing a break of structure. Now, again, would have the opposite negative confluence of taking buy side liquidity from above these highs. So again, the pullback may be important, but we've had our breaker structure above here, previous daily low, sell side liquidity from all of these lows here, and we could have a good pullback down into our POI to trade upwards somewhere into the imbalance or to continue to trend. That's up to you. But that would also look like an attractive scenario. Again, they're not the best. Like, we may see better things from better discounts down here. Obviously, I'm going to draw that one out. Here is the scenario that I see. These are all possible, but you'd have to evaluate price at the time. Again, that would be the negative up here, just below the lows. And this would be our break of structure, of course. So price could just as easily do that if it wants to continue with its bullish order flow and the bearish scenario on DXY. I think these buys look great from down here. It would probably be a bit more preferred. We come into this 1 hour POI, price holds, sweeps this low, preferably for some sell side liquidity, breaks above, and then we can have a nice pull back to our POI and just trade upwards. So this is what that scenario would look like in my strategy. Break of structure over here. We would have our inducement just above price, hopefully, and then we can trade long from this area, stop loss below lows, up into the recent high or beyond. So these are the sort of scenarios I would be looking for personally. Now obviously price could sweep these lows and do the same thing, so just be aware of that. And DXY obviously would be doing something like this in those scenarios, right? So to then continue lower. So those scenarios I've drawn out of what I see. Of course, it's not the be all and end all, and that's not exactly how price will always go. But this sort of price action is what I want to look for. So I hope you gained value from that. Any questions, let me know in the comments. Remember to like and subscribe, and I'll see you guys soon.